Welcome to The Connecting Place with Andrea Fabry, making the connection between health and your environment. Now, here's your host, Andrea Fabry.
Well, today we're going to get a behind-the-scenes look at my role as someone online who is helping. And I'm smiling because this program was not my idea. It was my husband's, Chris. So honestly, we didn't talk ahead of time about this, and I didn't know how to introduce it. But I'll introduce you. Thank you for coming.
It's great to talk with you, Andrea. Here's what I want to do today. I just want to get inside your world because here's what I know. You'll come out of the room, you talk in the kitchen. Most of the time you talk in the bedroom on the phone with people who call you up and say, hey, could you help me with this? And I hear you coming down from whatever the struggle was. So I want to know who calls you, why do they call you, what do they ask you, what's the most important or most frequent question those types of things. Mm-hmm. Because the other question that I have is, you dealing with a lot of these mold issues, does it bring up everything that you went through way back when?
Those are a lot of questions. And first of all, I'll say, my presence is primarily online, and I do get a lot of inquiries via email because that's what I'm there for, so that someone doesn't have to feel that alone, as I did back in 2007, 2008, and 2009, trying to piece this together. Why in the world would our family get so sick suddenly, even though there were signs early on? So my goal has been from the beginning to be a voice and an encouragement to those who may find themselves in a similar struggle. And of course, initially I thought, well, there aren't that many people going through this, so I want to be there for those few people. Now, 8 years later, I can honestly say this is way more common than most people realize. And if you're in your small town and you've had a serious mold exposure and are trying to figure all this out and you feel very alone, I want to assure you, you're not. Our health is greatly being impacted by our indoor environments. And there are so many reasons for this when you look at building methods over the last century and how they've gone from plaster to drywall, how we've sealed them up, we've contaminated. I mean, we just have these mold palaces now everywhere, including dry climates. At any rate, I try and be available online and have written quite a bit so that I can give a starting point. I certainly don't talk to everybody who emails me, but on occasion and quite frequently, probably several times a week, I can tell where there needs to be a conversation where it could help. I've learned over the years to discern who I can or can't help, and I don't, honestly, it doesn't weigh me down or... Okay, let me
jump in right there. Who you can and can't help. Hold that thought. But yes. Does it bring you back? Does it give you PTSD or whatever mold traumatic disorder would be? Does
yes,
it ever do
sometimes
that?
I do tear up, and I think that's a good thing because it does bring the pain right back. Mm-hmm. But when that happens, it's in a setting where I know it's helping somebody to commiserate.
Yeah, so it's okay.
It brings it back, but there are schools of thought on recovery from this type of environmental illness or any type of environmental illness, and that is not to think about it anymore and to move away from talking and thinking about it. And I respect and I get that. I have found that I feel like it's actually a healing thing to learn to live in it and to redeem what happened to us. Because just the other day I had a young mom say, well, I'm sorry for all the pain you went through to be able to help me, but I can't tell you. My husband and I have such clarity about what we need to do with our house now because of what you went through. And that's really the bigger story and why I continue to revisit the subject of mold. And I admit sometimes I don't even want to think about that. That's pretty rare. And when I feel that way, I take a break. I feel perfectly free to do that.
How do you know if you can or can't help someone?
Well, sometimes people will email and say, I can't remediate. I can't leave my house. I can't do anything. But what do? I have this big spot on my wall. And I can tell, well, when you approach this issue of water damage in your indoor environment, or there's no way I can approach my boss, there's no way I can change my job, there's no way, I generally can tell, well, if you're saying there's no way and you're still looking to change the situation, those two schools of thought don't go well together. So if someone is open, now I have more of an understanding that perhaps I can help them. Not that I try and ever tell anybody what to do. There is a mindset that I can tell. It can only go so far. So usually I just say, well, here's the beginner's guide I have. These answers a lot of your questions. And then I see if there's a follow-up question, because sometimes there's a change in thinking. I completely understand anyone who says, now I can't do anything about this, but I see a problem. That's often the starting point. But at that point, I probably can't help them.
Where have you ever felt stuck with somebody and become frustrated to the point that you want to throw the phone on the other end to the other end?
Not really. Maybe this is, let me just talk a little about, it's been 8 years, and I have learned over the years, as I said, who I can and can't help. I've gotten much better with following my gut instinct on should I invest this kind of energy in a phone call, because it does take energy and I have to feel like I can help. I'm happy to do that. On 1 or 2 occasions, I went against my gut and I talked with somebody and I had a bad feeling. And probably I wasn't in the best of places. Maybe I was a little short or abrupt. I don't know. It just didn't go well. And it kind of came back to haunt me. And you said this and you said this. And I learned a lot from that. It was actually only one where I felt like, ooh, I should have listened to my gut instinct, because, again, I'm not here to solve anything. I'm here to be a voice of encouragement that anybody who is thinking that something going on in the home can impact health is on a good path. Now, how that looks for your situation, I have no idea, and I would never presume. I'm not charging for this. I'm not medically trained. I'm just a mom who went through a very, very difficult time and want to be that voice of, yes, environment matters. And that's it.
Here's a hard question. Is this about you being right?
Oh, no. And I learned that the hard way, because I used to have stronger opinions. Of course, when you're first coming out of a situation like this, a serious trauma, you don't want anyone to ever have to go through it, and you're sure that you can help them never have to go through it. And you have this almost black or white approach. You need to run from it all. You need to get rid of your stuff. You need to do what we did. No, that lasted about 2 months after this trauma, and I slowly, as we recovered and my brain recovered, I knew that that's not true. And who am I to know? So it's never. I usually try to help whoever I'm talking to see that they can trust their gut on this. That's my role, because I don't know. And I'm very clear on that. I do not know. And so that's the only way to help somebody. And that's really why I do what I do, is just to help, especially moms. And I've spoken with many husbands and dads who are really intuitive about this and really get it and understand it. So I want to help them say, good for you, good job thinking about this. But I feel like my special heart is for moms who are the nesters by design. They just think about, like a mother bird builds the nest for their young. We're very nest savvy intuitively. And if a mom is uncomfortable about her home, I generally would say you can trust that to her. And sometimes it's not about the right test or the right proof. It's about knowing what you know. Something's not right here.
Is it hard not to pigeonhole people who call, meaning you've got a mom on the phone who thinks there's a problem, but the husband doesn't and just wants to fix it himself, and just to say, okay, you're in this category over here. And I know you don't do that, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Right.
How do you avoid this is answer number 34?
Because then I shouldn't be talking with anybody if I feel that so strongly, like, oh, I know, and here it is again. I really do understand where a provider, especially a male husband, dad who has worked so hard to provide this home, is coming from. And I want to honor that and understand where anybody is coming from. So if I ever lose perspective of walking in someone else's shoes at the beginning of this journey, even before, and maybe it's not even going to be a mold journey. There are many cases where the house is fine. There's something else going on. And I usually try and help them, problem solve, brainstorm. What else could be going on? Are there high power voltage lines? Are you near a cell tower? Is there a smart meter? Is there something with the furnace, the HVAC system? Is there some construction problem? Are there windows too tight? Is there a diet problem? Yeah, there's so many reasons health can decline. But if I ever come at this with that type of black and white thinking and not walking in someone's shoes, then I just know I'm not in a place to take a call. But I rarely do. I identify with anybody who is back at that place of not knowing. And I never want to lose sight of that.
It's got to be hard, though, for you, as long as you've done this and as far as you've come, to talk with somebody who is at the beginning stages of this, because in their mind, it's just like what you thought. It's going to take a couple of months and we're going to get through this and then life is going to get back to normal. That's not going to happen. So how do you really reach into that person's life and not say, hey, you got to, it's going to be awful?
Well, that's a good question, because that doesn't happen, because as soon as it really makes me tear up. As soon as I hear someone talk, I just know where they're at, and the last thing in the world they need is, well, it's going to be like this, or have you done this? And if only you'd try this. That's not caring and loving. That would be coming out of my own issues. And all I need to do is hear someone talk a little bit, and it puts me right where they are. And that's what help is. I'm just here to go, well, yeah, good for you. Even if there's a lot ahead, good for you. I can't imagine what's demeaning someone who is even considering who's going to talk to me unless they're thinking about this issue. Nobody. So they deserve an award just for thinking about it. So that's easy to keep in mind.
The place where I see you get the most frustrated with a call is not with the person themselves, or they cut into the wall mistakenly, and exposed, just like we did, because we did this, made the same mistakes. It's not somebody who's made a mistake or spent too much money or whatever. It's when other people around them invalidate the pain that they're going through, or other people who say, we're going to help you, but this is all we're going to do right here. We're not going to do what you say that you need. We're going to do what we think you need.
What? I get frustrated by that. I'm just shocked. Okay, I do vent a little here. Now that is still hard for me. I feel so badly for someone who's in this position, doing the very best they can, and they are dismissed. Yes, that is frustrating. Now, maybe someone who has dismissed this is listening, and you're listening because your family member said, "Would you please listen to this program?" And because please listen. So, yes, I do vent that sometimes, and I think that comes across to someone I'm talking about. What? They said what? And I have to pull that back, and I have to walk in the shoes of the person who's dismissing it, because guess what? I have been in the shoes of the person dismissing it, except that our family was getting so sick. And so there was like this rumbling inside. To the person who just has said, this is so over the top. You are crazy. Would you stop obsessing about this? I want to say to you, I understand. And I don't want to say, well, you just need to educate yourself. I don't want to say you just need to do anything. I would say, if you love this person and you love them enough to be listening to this, and I applaud you for listening, you obviously care, then loving sometimes is letting them go through the journey and just, well, I guess the word picture I use is if this family member of yours who seems obsessed and crazy, we're running this like 12-mile race uphill. When they hit mile 2, you wouldn't say, what are you doing? Get your knees up. Why aren't you you'd say, good job, keep going, good job, way to go. Think of yourself on the sidelines as a cheerleader. Good job. You're doing the best you can. Everybody's trying. I always come back to that. They're trying and you're trying. You're trying by saying you're crazy because you care and you're afraid they're going to become crazier. Oh, I understand that. It seems crazy. It's a season. It's just a season. Was I obsessed? Yes, I was. I'm not. And it's those people, and there were only a few, who let me, that I'm so grateful for. I had to figure this out. And honestly, I don't regret being obsessed. We were so injured by our indoor environment. Why wouldn't I be a little nervous about any other indoor environment or the food we eat or possible exposures and water leaks and chemicals and all that? It's a nightmare. I hope and pray that if you're listening and you haven't gone through that, great. Some people don't have to go down that road. We did. And I'm so grateful to those who just sat back and cheered us on and said, good job, you're trying. So you're trying and they're trying. Always remember that. We're all in this together. And I care so much about them. I'm going to believe the best, that they're going to make it through.
You've been listening to The Connecting Place, making the connection between health and your environment. Join us again next time for The Connecting Place with Andrea Faber.